go ahead, Ashley.
Hey, well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you're here to support authors and local readers and of course, Grassroots Books. I'm Ashley, the event and social media coordinator for Grassroots, and tonight we have author and sort of Corvallis local, currently in Bend, Natalie Cutsforth for her book, Tame Your Energy Sensitivity, A Tiger's Guide to Happiness for Sensitive People. So a quick introduction for Natalie. Natalie Cutsforth is an intuitive healer and facilitator of life-changing transformation with clients all over the world. Through private sessions, courses, and retreats, she helps clients heal their soul memories and update soul contracts. She teaches empaths to understand what they experience and set boundaries to gracefully navigate life. So here's the way that this will work tonight. Natalie will lead a reading and then a guided meditation for us, and then we'll open up the floor to a Q&A from audience members for the last 15 or 20 minutes or so. Please feel free to use the chat box at any point to indicate if you have a question during the presentation. Afterwards, we'll be using that to run the Q&A portion of the evening. I also want to note that the link to buy Tame Your Energy Sensitivity will be in the chat shortly. I highly encourage you to buy it from us. Not only will you be supporting Natalie as an author, but also Grassroots as a small indie bookstore that's able to bring events like this to you. And I also want to note that if you do purchase Natalie's book through us within the next week, we can get you a signed copy from Natalie herself. So all that being said, I am going to hand it over to Natalie.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm so excited to finally be doing this. We've been talking, Grassroots and I, since last March, and with all the craziness in the world, it was like going to be in person and then moved, and now we're here. So I'm glad we're all together here online, because that means I can connect with many of you that aren't local there in the Corvallis area. So that's where I grew up. I'm both a Santiam Christian and a Crescent Valley High School student at different times of my my childhood and adolescence, and so I just want to give you a teeny bit of background about myself. I studied international affairs at the University of Colorado in Boulder, Colorado, and after school I jumped into a job with a satellite imaging company working for geographic information systems industry for many years. And during that time, I began to sense and understand that I was seeing things differently than other people, because, you know, you see things the way you do in life and you don't realize maybe that you're seeing them differently than somebody else does in terms of how you interpret your senses. And in my late 20s, I started becoming aware that I was sensing things through a different sense than the five senses. And that led me actually initially to trying to learn to turn it off, because it was causing stress in my life. I was going to work at that technology, satellite imaging company, and I could feel my angry coworker come in the building 2 stories away. And I would go, oh, Lori's here. and so at that point in my life, I found out that actually I could learn to understand more of what I was experiencing and set better boundaries, so I wasn't constantly feeling stuff blocks away from my physical body as an energy sensitive. So I started training at the Interconnections Institute in Denver, and working with Don Eaglewoman, who's my spiritual mentor. And in that process, I learned about myself mostly, healed lots of years of invalidation of the information I was getting, and learned to translate what I was experiencing. And then after about a dozen years of sort of learning and practicing just for myself, setting boundaries, I started seeing clients as an intuitive healer and reader about a dozen years ago. So anyways, all that led to me realizing how many people are out there that have energy sensitivity, and they don't even have they might say, yeah, I'm intuitive, but they don't really understand the full breadth of what it means or how it's affecting their lives. And so that's what inspired me I've been blogging for a decade, and that inspired me to write this book, Tame Your Energy Sensitivity, because I feel like there's really a need for so many people that have that sixth sense, or that absorb energy or feel energy, to understand, one, how it works, but also to understand how you can actually do something to set your energy field so that you don't have to feel everybody else's stuff all the time, which allows you to get more clear about what's your truth. And so that's what this book's about. I'm also a big believer that it's a small book because people's tolerance, including my own, for self-awareness is short. And I don't know how many times in my life that I've read a self-awareness book and I stop after a certain point because I need to process it. So I thought, let's start with just the right amount for a person to read and process, and then I'll make another one someday, right? So anyways, I'm going to read you a section from my book, the second, I guess, chapter, you might call it, from my book called Reasons Empaths Doubt Their Inner Guidance. There's 3 main reasons that empaths doubt their inner guidance. So telling people that what you sense, sorry, I'm going to start over that because I need to put my glasses on. Okay, people telling you that what you sense is wrong. The confusion created by feeling someone else's energy as if it's your own. And it sucks to feel so much of the energy around you all the time. So those are the 3 reasons I have experienced that we learn to doubt our inner guidance as empaths. Now for the reading. So Tasha the tiger was raised by humans, and the humans taught her to rely on them for survival. Her natural instincts were discouraged to tame her into submission. A predator powerful enough to kill her human keepers was raised in a way that made her forget her innate skills that she had for survival. Among humans, there was no place for her wild nature. One reason empaths learn not to trust or to rely on their innate skills is because their insights make the people around them uncomfortable. An empath might sense something that no one else is talking about and say it, but have the people involved deny it. A child tells his mother, "Grandma is sad. I feel sad too." The mother, worried that her son feels sad and perhaps unwilling to be aware of her own mother's sadness, says reactively, "No, honey, don't be sad. She's not sad. See, she's smiling." The child believes he's wrong for sensing the energy from his grandmother and begins to doubt or deny those empathic insights. Over time, these seemingly small invalidations add up. Before too long, the child is no longer clear that what he is sensing in those moments is actually someone else's energy. He learns not to freely speak these insights. He believes it must be him. He feels sad around a sad person and thinks, "I must be sad." He doesn't have the awareness that he's absorbing someone else's sadness empathically. Empaths read by feel. The first and foremost primary way of sensing the energy around you is through an energy field, and empaths feel it clearly right in their own bodies. If you haven't been taught that it's even possible to feel someone else's energy in your body, let alone how to have healthy boundaries with it, this can be a very confusing experience. Is it me feeling this, or is it you? How do I know? Because of this, empaths can be more easily swayed by the desires of people around them to make choices that aren't aligned with their own truth. You feel the energy of a person whose truth it is and misunderstand it as your own. A person is attracted to you. You feel their sexual energy and think it's yours. You say yes to a date and then walk away and realize once you're out of their energy field that you're not at all attracted to them. The energy of others has a stronger influence on an empath than on the average person. This is particularly true of negative energy because people ooze anger, depression, and fear rather than keeping it contained in their aura. It creates a toxic cloud wherever they are, and the empath in their presence takes on that poison and suffers. You might have coffee with a friend who is in emotional pain, listen compassionately with a desire to help, all the while taking on a lot of their pain. As an empath, it gets into your space because you're openly feeling into their energy in order to read it. The friend feels better after the conversation, not just because they got to share their experiences, but because they were able to dump a lot of their pain. They received a healing from you. A key to finding peace as an empath is learning to have empathy without absorbing the pain of the wounded. Taking on someone's suffering to help them heal results in needing to heal yourself. It drags you down to match their pain. Over time, you'll become exhausted. You won't be able to lift people out of their pain anymore. The fundamental truth, and something that all empaths need to understand, is that you can help a person heal without taking on their suffering. This is surprising to a lot of empaths who feel responsible for taking on the pain and suffering of people they care about. Your healing nature as an empath can be so deeply unconscious that you see what needs healing in another and try to fix it or heal a person who hasn't asked for it. If the person hasn't asked you for healing, they can feel violated by you reading their pain and bringing it to their attention. They may even send you an energy whack to create a boundary, which is another confusing message for empaths. Have you ever thought you were helping someone, but found they were angry instead of grateful? In all innocence, most empaths don't know they are violating someone's boundary by reading them without permission. How would you know if no one taught you? Most of all, many empaths don't trust their inner guidance because it sucks to feel so much. An energy sensitive often believes that if they embrace their intuitive nature, they will only feel worse. This is deeply programmed from all of the overwhelming and confusing experiences most empaths grow up with. Empaths are often told they feel too much. Their insights are often ignored and invalidated. So the default way to cope is to shut that part of themselves down. And that's the end of the reading that I was planning for you. I want to just follow it up by saying that's what there's a few ways that I personally learned early in my life to manage having that sensitivity. One was to go out of my body a lot. When I was younger, I'd bump into things and get bruises and find myself sort of not fully in my body. I see that as sort of our spirit going up here and hanging out up here because it's uncomfortable to feel all the feelings in our body that we sense with everybody's energy around us when we're empathic. And as I mentioned earlier, when I first sought to learn about my sixth sense as a psychic, I was motivated by turning it off because I didn't want to feel so much. But ultimately, instead, I learned to have boundaries, which made me really love having this sixth sense and able to help other people with it, help myself with it, and find an inner peace I never even realized was possible. So I'm not sure, Ashley, if you wanted me to jump right into the guided meditation, or did you want to, what were your thoughts there?
Feel free. Yeah, if you're ready to jump into it, go for it.
Okay, great. Well, the other thing I wanted to share with you all, and a few of you in here have had experiences with me, so you might already know this, but is one of the tools that I teach in the book, a quick tool for you to manage your energy. So I'll just invite anybody that is interested at this time to join me in a guided visualization where you can learn the 5 or 6 steps to setting your energy field and protecting it. So if you would just take a moment to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And first, just bring your attention into your breathing and your body. Notice that you're here now and you are giving yourself this little bit of nurturing just by being present. And bring your attention as you're breathing down to the tip of your tailbone, all the way down into the tip of your tailbone. And just notice that from the base of your spine, there's this, what we call the root chakra, which is our connection where we can connect to the earth's energy. We're all here in bodies as souls on earth. And just imagine that you have a line of energy connecting the tip of your tailbone that runs through the chair you're in, through the floor, through the dirt and rocks, and goes all the way down, down, down into the earth and wraps its roots. If you're imagining a tree trunk or beam of light, you can plug it in, but wrap those roots or plug into a beautiful crystal cave, a little geode full of crystals just for you. It's your anchor, and it's a source of energy that's there to help you ground. You set a solid foundation for your energy field as you navigate your life. So noticing that line of energy, you can almost imagine a tree trunk or that beam of light or even an animal tail, that tiger tail that extends down from the tip of your spine all the way into the earth and is really plugged in and anchoring you, supporting you. And then just notice the center of your head, that space where you're imagining from. This is like kindergarten, we get us to imagine there's no way of doing it wrong. From that space in the center of your head, just take a moment to clean house and clear the center of your head space out of anything that's in it besides this very moment. You can, if you notice that people are popping into the center of your head, you can imagine them in a bubble, as if you were blowing bubbles, and send their energy back to them and pop their energy over their head and let it return to them, just clearing out your center of head of any people that may be in your psychic space. And you might just take a fan or a hose, a fire hose, and clean out that psychic space. A little clean out, a little vacuum cleaner maybe, whatever works for you to clean that center of head space. Your third eye, that's where you have your analytical mind and your intuition, right between your ears, behind your eyes. And the more you clean it out of other people's information, the more you get to see your own information clearly, because nobody else is there but you. So you're grounded. You're noticing that center of head is clean and clear. Now just imagine that there's this big bubble around your body. It could be egg-shaped. It could just be a big circle, big bubble around your physical body, a couple feet away from your body. If your arms were outstretched, it would be at the tips of your fingers. This is your aura field. This is your aura bubble. This is where your energy ends and begins. The rest of the world's energy begins. So just noticing that bubble, imagining there's a big bubble around your physical body. I want you to paint it a fresh color for this moment, for yourself. Make it one that's fun, makes you happy. Maybe you want a bright sunflower yellow, sky blue, lavender purple, whatever color inspires you, rose red. Just set that aura bubble at a fresh color. And that color is just an intentional way of saying, here's where my energy field ends and begins with the rest of the world. It's just a very graceful boundary. Great. And now in your imagination, the next thing I would like you to imagine is that a couple feet above your head is a beautiful golden sun, sparkling like the sun that we have here and we can look at from Earth. It's gold, and it's bright, it's vibrant, it's a source of energy. It's got a magnet in it that's calling your energy to it that you've left any place out there in the world. It might be it's energy you have out in the future, thinking about what you need to do next. It could be energy that's out in the past from somewhere you've been, something that's unfinished. Just intend that all of your energy that's ready to be returned from other people, places, and things you're done with can come back into this golden ball of light above your head. That golden sun, that golden ball of light is gathering up magnetically all these bits and pieces of your soul's essence that are ready to be reclaimed for you. It's the best medicine there is. And while we're at it, just imagine that golden sun not only is full of your own energy, but it's also getting a big bucket full of clarity dropped into it. You can just pour that bucket full of clarity in there so you can see clearly from that intuitive sixth sense. And then reach up in your mind's eye and pop the golden sun like a balloon, pop, and visualize its energy running down like honey into the top of your head, filling you up all the way down your neck into your arms, hands, and fingertips, filling in your heart, down into your belly, your solar plexus, where your power center is, down into your second chakra, where your empathic sensitivity and creation energy is, down into your root, and all the way down your legs into the soles of your feet and tips of your toes. So every cell of your body is vibrating at your own essence and that clarity. And if you want, you can imagine it extends out all the way to the edge of your aura bubble. So that every atom of that airspace inside your aura bubble is set at your frequency and clarity. Great. And so now the final step is to imagine that outside of that aura bubble, just in front of you, there's a rose just out in front of you. And it's a protection rose. It's a frequency that's very high. A rose holds this high frequency. It's like a filter that's protecting you from anybody else's negativity or just wherever they're at. It's not your problem. You can witness it neutrally when you have protection. So see that beautiful rose on the outside of your aura bubble right in front of you. That's your protection rose. And it's got a stem on it that goes all the way down into the ground, grounding your rose, that protection, that filter. And when you like that beautiful rose, imagine that you replicate it to your right on the outside of that aura bubble, behind you, to your left, above you, and below your feet. So there's roses in 6 directions around your aura bubble, filtering out any energy that's not in your highest good, and setting this frequency of protection. It's not a wall, but it's a protection that invites other people to meet you there at that level of kindness, at that level of high frequency that the rose represents. So notice again that you're grounded, you've got a bubble, You've got protection in all 6 directions. This is all about your imagination, shifting the energy field around you. And your center of head is clear. It's just you in there. And you've filled up with your own energy that you've called back to yourself. I would like to guide you in one more step. And that step is to notice from that space between your ears and behind your eyes, your third eye, your psychic space, your inner gaze with your eyes closed. Keeping your eyes closed, just imagine that your inner gaze is focused at the very top of your head, sort of looking straight up from within. And then just send the hello, the invitation to invite more of your spirit down into your body while you're looking up with that inner gaze. Say, I invite more of my spirit into my body so I can stay in alignment with my soul path. As you do that, just imagine that energy, feel it come down in all the way down your spine until it reaches the tip of your tailbone. Just a little more of you inside of you. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and stretch. Wonderful. Thank you all for going with me on that journey. A little bit of going inward and setting our energy space makes a huge difference. That's the tool I practiced day after day, and I learned to do it. I could do it when I was walking my dog. Once I didn't have to close my eyes. I would just walk my dog in the morning and ground and put my bubble up and put my protection up and clear out my head and call my energy back. And then I go to work, and it changed my life. It changed my life. So I hope you can use that and it can change your life too. So I'm ready for questions whenever you want to shift into that, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you so much for leading that guided meditation, that visualization. So interesting. Does anyone want to jump off with any questions right now? I'm happy to kick us off if we would like, but I'd like to open up the floor to others first.
Do we have people raise their hands, or how do they ask in chat, or how do they do it?
Yeah, if you'd like to let the chat know and tell us that way that you have a question, you can raise your hand. I would see that. If you want to jump in right now, it's quiet enough. We're flexible here.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, well, why don't I start us off and give people some time to think up some questions. I guess what I was wondering is, there's quite, writing a book is a whole endeavor, as you know. Was there one particular catalyst that led you to want to write and distribute this book? Or was there one moment, or was it always something you were building toward, do you think?
Well, for me, this was sort of interesting because I've written several books that I never finished or never published. And this one came just as a download. It was just like, it came to me and I didn't even know what I was really doing when I was writing it. I just felt compelled. And then I sat down again and wrote more. And then I sat down again. So I would just say that what happened with this is that I read a story in the Wild Animal Sanctuary's newsletter. And it's a big game rescue in Colorado. I had visited there when I lived there. And I have donated to them, and I encourage anybody that believes in that cause to donate to them as well. And I read a story about this tiger that had been raised in captivity and never actually knew what it was like. It had never met another tiger since it was a baby. It was taken away. And when it was rescued, they had to reteach it what it, and it even put it in next to other tigers so that it could smell them first and hear them. There was a lion with it, but it never had seen another tiger. So what it really hit me is one of the things that was in that story was that this animal that had been raised outside of its natural instinct had to be re-taught how to trust itself, because it never had learned how to trust itself from the very beginning of life. And that's what really triggered me to go, oh yeah, when you're an empath, most people, even if you have awesome parents, they don't necessarily know how you're experiencing it. And they don't necessarily know how to set boundaries, and they don't necessarily know how to teach you. And they might have learned how to turn it off themselves because that's the invalidation they got in their life. And so that's really what inspired me to write this particular book. And just that, and the life of this tiger and how and I really feel like Tasha, that she taught me something through her life. She's no longer alive, but she taught me something, inspired this book. So
I love that story. Thank you.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense that would inspire such a longer train of thought. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you, or a follow-up question. Is this book only for empaths? Do you think, somebody who maybe doesn't identify as an empath or doesn't necessarily feel exactly this way, would they benefit from reading this book, or did you really write it with this specific audience in mind?
Well, I would say that it's more than just empaths. What I've had is parents read it with their teenagers and tell me that it's really helped them learn how to communicate with their kid about what they're sensing that's not in the five senses. I've had a couple here in Bend where one is really empathic and the other is not. They both read it because it helped the wife, and they just basically, it was like, I need to understand you, so I'm reading it to understand you, for her partner. So it was so I think that it's not just for empaths, it's for people that want to understand other people that are empathic, if they're loved ones, children, partners. So that's, at least that's the feedback I've received.
Makes sense. I have a question here from Lynn in the chat. Lynn, if you'd like to ask it yourself, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I will read it. All right, I will read it. Lynn asked, you talked about how to set boundaries and protect ourselves from empathetic tendencies and possibly being overwhelmed. Can you speak to how energy sensitivity can be a gift for ourselves?
Oh yeah, I get to that in the book too. I just read a piece about the doubt. I truly believe that our energy awareness is a way to help us get a whole different layer of information as we navigate our life. So many times that extra bit of information that comes through that awareness of energy can be what saves us from a really bad experience if we listen to it. And I wish I was just popping in with a good analogy from my own life, but literally, here's a good one from one of my students in my empath strength training. It's sort of intense, but she was registered to go to a yoga class in Florida 1.5 or 2 years ago. It was in the news and she had gone to that class regularly. The class was full. She was one of the students that had filled the classroom, and she was driving to it and got in a fender bender, even though she was like resistant, like, I don't want to go to class, but I should go to class, so I'm going to go to class. And she kept ignoring her intuition, and then she got in a tiny fender bender, and it saved her life because somebody walked into that yoga studio and shot people. And so that's sort of intense, but ultimately she felt like her angels protected her, and she realized that she ignored her intuition that day. And if she would have listened to it, she wouldn't have gone anyways. But luckily someone, didn't harm her car too bad, but hit her enough to stop her from going to yoga class. So I really believe that we do have help out there. It's not just us. And sometimes it's that serious, sometimes it's that life or death around listening to your intuition. And sometimes it's just as simple as going, oh, I need to leave this room because I feel like that person's going to vampire my energy. Like I can sense that person trying to take something from me energetically. And so I just need to walk away, or I need to put my protection up. So I would say when we start realizing that it's not, that there is this whole realm that's outside our five senses, and that we can actually engage in it, it becomes a gift. And really, for me at least, it's like having the boundaries was essential. And then after I had the boundaries, I could start becoming more clear about what was me, what was someone else, what was something else that I was feeling. And when I got clear about that, then I could, help myself. So hope that helps. Yes. And to me, it's a superpower, really. And I believe we can all cultivate our intuition. It's just that some people, and I could speak to that a little bit too, are my experience is that there are a few things that cause a person to be more empathically aware. One of them is just being born that way, comes through their family line. I would say it comes through both my family lines. Both of my parents are very intuitive, psychic in their own ways. So I think that sometimes it's sort of genetic or sort of culture in our own family culture or a lineage. Sometimes it's a trauma that occurs in our life that makes us have to have our radar on extra all the time. Like something bad happened, something intense happened. And even that trauma could be a repeated, even emotional abuse or abuse in a household. That is a repeated small scale trauma that keeps a person extra alert, going, what's going on? And like activating, needing to know more than you can get with the five senses. So I think I covered them all. Like, you're sort of like the kind you get through your lineage. Oh, the third kind, which is a little bit more woo-woo, is the kind that your soul brings in with it because you've had experiences with it in other lifetimes. So that's my take on how, but everybody can actually cultivate that skill. I just think that it's like, I like to use the analogy of being a football player. Like, just because you're born with a body that makes you capable of being a good football player, you need to learn you need to learn actually about the sport, the rules of it, and you need to practice it, or else you're never going to be good. You'll just, whatever, you might get flabby or something. So anyways, next question, sorry.
I like that analogy a lot. Question from Patty Ann, who said, thank you for the guided visualization and the reading. Any suggestions on how to reestablish boundaries in the moment when we realize that we need to refortify?
Yeah, I know that. And it's really important sometimes when you're in the situation with a person and it's not just, oh, I can't just like start meditating right now. One of the things that I like to do with my breath is imagine, like, if I feel someone's gotten in my space energetically, that, you can do it with your eyes open and just go inhale, exhale, and imagine your bubble like this, your aura bubble is going a little farther out, a little farther out, a little farther out. And so, I mean, that's one way to do it. If you're in a situation and someone's really gotten your space. The other thing that is, if you feel like it's inappropriate to send the person's energy back to them, like we did from the center of headspace in the meditation, one of the things I like to do is put them in a bubble and like send that. If it's like somebody is, dumped their pain on you and you don't want to send them their pain back, you want to put it, I like to imagine putting it in a rose or a bubble and sending it away and then releasing it, no harm done. Like, I just visualize it going to a place and popping or blowing up and dissolving the energy and transforming it, no harm done. So, yeah.
Now that next question that's not well written is for me because I was typing away and my thick thumbs just kind of hit send before I was ready. My question was, how do you deal with people who, and actually I have two questions for you, but the first one is, and you kind of know like the world I work in, and my husband, and it's very black and white science. So when you come to like the life and you have more of a, you can kind of feel the mood of the room a little bit more. How do you deal with people who kind of aren't tolerant or aren't accepting of this gift you have?
Yeah, I get that because I worked 22 years in technology. And on one hand, because there were so many analytical people I worked with, they didn't get in my psychic space so much, which was a gift. On the other hand, when I would share my intuition, I would often have them discounted or like, oh,
Yeah,
well,
totally.
I'm like, for example, because I was in sales, like, oh, let's go present to this and try to, I don't know how else to say it, like try to win this deal. And I'm just like, not even an option. Why are we bothering? They already decided someone else. They're just kicking tires, but your boss doesn't listen to you, right? So
Yeah.
there's this sort of dance, but to me, it's for me it wasn't that easy all the time. I just had to sort of go, oh well, what I call it is they can't have that information. So I'm trying to think of another good example, but that was the case. Like years ago, I got the brilliant opportunity to present to the Gates Foundation on a project, and my boss just was so sure we were going to win it, and I was so sure that, like, I was open to winning it, but I already knew they'd decided who they were going to give it to, but I still went and presented because it was a great opportunity. So I guess when I'm dealing with someone that's around me that's doubting, and it's important, if it's critical, then I guess Mimi or Michelle, what I don't know if you do you have an example you want to give me, or?
Well, I can't, like, there isn't an example, but okay, here, the other half of this question is, how do you know if you have this skill or not?
Oh.
And the thing is like, I feel energies in the room or at work, or like I can feel really strongly, whereas I think people I'm with don't feel things as strongly as I do, but I don't have your gift of moving that into words. It's just simply a feeling.
Yeah, and so I guess the way I'd answer that is that yes, you do have. I mean, like when you feel something in your body that's not out there, that you can't, taste, touch, hear, smell, see, like somebody's smiling, but you can tell that they're deceiving you, or that they're full of anxiety. Literally once one of my sales bosses, I could just feel that he was like a little kid crying in the corner of the room, and like 6 months later, he actually said that to me out loud. He was like joking, but he's like, oh, I'm just sort of like a little kid crying in the corner of the room. And I'm like, it's like you feel it, and sometimes a person will eventually validate it. But I would say if you feel that, I guess I should back up and say that my experience is that our first way that we read energy, or that sixth sensory wise, is we feel it in our body. We go, it either creates a sensation like a tension, or we feel the actual emotion, or sometimes we feel a physical pain in our body in a place that, like, oh, my leg hurts because I'm with somebody that has a hurt leg. So the feeling it in your body is the first and natural way that most people empathically learn to read information, because it doesn't come in those other senses. So our body is like a barometer that's trying to translate it. I don't know. It's like our body is the Rosetta Stone, right? It's going, oh, I feel this. But then you sort of have to go, it's not me that's feeling this. It's actually me sensing something else outside of me. Now, if that helps.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hoping that helps. It's a big topic.
Totally. Yeah. And then trying to like express to somebody that how do you say that to somebody who's just very black, white, technology, science, geology, and you're like, okay. But I like what you said, they just might not get access to that information.
Yeah, and I do have to say that as an intuitive person, I find that sometimes you have to just sort of go, oh, they can't have it, so I'm not going to say it to them, because it's not sort of like pigs to swine, pearls to swine, or whatever they say. I can't tell them because they're not going to get it. And sometimes that can be a problem when you need to give somebody opportunity to try to get it, So, but I do talk more about that in the book. I mean, in terms of what you can do to, right, have boundaries with it and really understand how it works. you know.
Thank you, Nat.
So. Thanks.
Looks like we have a question here from Lisa, who asked, how do you regain your intuition after it's been invalidated out of you, out of your... Lisa, maybe if you want to clarify this one.
Yeah.
Or I will finish.
Sorry, I couldn't have unmuted. Sorry. What I was asking is, how do you regain your intuition after it's been invalidated out of you, after it's been like beaten out of you, and every time you say it, you're told, oh, that's not true, that's not wrong. How do you learn to trust that again and not automatically say, well, no, it can't be? And just as an aside, I have gotten myself into a lot of really bad situations because I've ignored my intuition, because I was, it was beaten out of me, no, that's stupid, you're dumb, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. How do you regain it? How do you get it back and learn to trust it again?
Well, it's definitely like going to the gym. It takes a practice, and I feel like it, for me, even with two very intuitive parents, there was still plenty of invalidation I experienced in my life and in the world. And I had to unlearn, and specifically when I would say just a little tip would be, you sort of learn how to ask yourself the right question so that it gets to the right answer. And what I mean by that is that when you get a hit, I always go to those three questions I talk about in the book. Is it me? Is it someone else? Is it something else? And you go with those simple questions first, and you can get and I talk a little bit in that book about how you can get your yes and no. And I also like to say, you can muscle test yourself if you know how to do that, like this. And I like call it, let's see. I always go like the ring finger and finger here, and then go like, you can you do that. See, is it a yes? Is it a no? And see what your yes and no is, like that. Or you can, another way I do it is I visualize a rose and I ask it to go say, what's my yes, and see where it moves to, and what's my no, and see where it moves to. And then I ask the question, and then watch the rose respond. So these are just little ways to take steps to start to, I really feel like part of reclaiming our power with it is exercising our boundaries first, and then exercising these tools around learning how to ask the right questions so that we're not asking the questions that create more doubt.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and the other part of that is that I was told I was a hypochondriac because I would have these bodily reactions to what was going on. And so was always told, well, you're not, first of all, when I was sick, I really wasn't, because I could never tell if it was a body reaction or if it was an illness. So these are the things I need to relearn in order
and a lot of people are having symptoms with all this going on in the world. I've heard a lot of empathic people that are clients and students of mine that had physical symptoms around this whole COVID thing. And because we're feeling the collective energy. And I remember a long time ago when I was in psychic school, I did a reading for someone that, and I wasn't at that point, I was still in doubt. I still was trying to figure out and trust what I was seeing. And he asked me what was going on with his leg. And I was like, I was afraid to say out loud that it looked like it was fractured. And so I didn't say it out loud. And then I saw him a couple of weeks later and he had a cast on. And I said, what happened to your leg? And he said it was fractured. And I was like, oh my God, I was right. But when I saw that, I felt it in my leg, because I was that's the way I used to read, is I would look at something and then I'd feel it in my body and in the spot, or, and that, we like to say, take the elevator up to the 6th chakra. So that feeling comes from our body, down from our 2nd chakra, and we refocus from here. And when we look from here, we can get some space, and we don't have to feel it in our body to get the answer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm seeing a comment from Joanne in the chat. Joanne, do you want to read this one out? I think you probably do a better job of it than I would.
So let me read what I've written. Natalie, when I hear the truth of a situation or anybody who's like speaking, it rings like a bell, like in my upper chakras in the top. When I hear a lie, it just stuns me in my stomach. How do I just let go and not be attached when you really know what's going on? When I was a child, my parents were afraid of me, and I didn't understand that until much later. And then I realized that I was just real intuitive, you know, real psychic and stuff. And I guess the question is that I'm trying to ask, and maybe you already know what I'm trying to ask, is when you get invalidated and you know what the truth is of a situation and you get invalidated, how do you just let that go and just bounce off you?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I call it neutrality. Like it's not being calloused or unkind, but one of the things that we really have to work on when we're sensitive to energy is being neutral, because if we match the energy or let it affect us, it alters the way we see things. And if we match it, it alters our center of gravity or our truth. So the way I teach it in my practice group and the way I've experienced it is that part of that process is to get some distance. So when we read, we look at something out here rather than read it in our body. So I don't know if that's really answering your question, but what I would say is that the tool that I use, if something triggers me, and it could be a lie, it could just be a sense that someone's trying to cord me or hook my energy, is I blow a rose, and it's like what I said before. I visualize a rose and I use it to move energy, and the rose is just that high frequency, and it's a symbol to help me move the energy and visualize moving energy. So here's that person, here's me realizing them trying to get a hook in me, or realizing them lying or something, and I just imagine, and whether my eyes are open or closed, that there's this rose and I'm blowing it up to move that energy, releasing the charge on it so I can be neutral, and I don't let it hook me. I don't let it change my experience. I can just neutrally witness it. Does that help?
Rose is a beautiful energy.
Yeah, and I just, I know it's a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but that to me is the way. It's like, put it in a bubble, put it in a rose, move it, and move the energy. And it's just about moving the energy so that it doesn't get stuck or it doesn't get attached to you. That's one part of it. The other part of it is sort of learning to have some distance between seeing rather than feeling it all in your body. As you start to get skill, you look at it from a distance. I like to look at it on a reading screen or in a hologram out ahead of me, instead of feeling it in my body to get the information. Because if I feel it in my body to get the information, I get altered, and my perspective isn't neutral anymore. But if I can get some space and look at it like that, then I can see it for what it is without altering my own experience.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much for answering all of those questions. They were such good questions, and I hate to cut this conversation short, but we are about out of time. Natalie, do you have any final thoughts for us as we start to wrap up and get out of here?
Well, yeah, I would just say that, support your local bookstores. This is a crazy world we're in right now. And Grassroots has been around since I was, I think, 1 year old, maybe. I'm 50, it's 49. Maybe you guys are turning 50 this year. But it's an awesome, earthy, hippie style bookstore, at least in my opinion, in my little hometown. And so if you're interested in my book, please get it from them. And I just want to encourage you also to begin to give yourself that little bit of space and validation around when you feel something that's not being acknowledged, just acknowledging it, just acknowledging that it's your intuition, that it's your empathic sensitivity is a huge step in and of itself. And that begins the process of you feeling more of yourself and understanding more of what you're seeing. Also, just I would say that if you want to sign up for my newsletter, it's on my website, and I send out a blog post about once a month, and I send out little 2 to 3 minute video tips once a week on how to, practice with your intuition and your empathic sensitivity. So that's at nataliecutsforth.com. That's it. Thank you, everybody. I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. This was such a fascinating conversation to be a part of. And Natalie, I truly appreciate your willingness to share your time and your insight with us. I'm so glad you finally made it to an event with us. It's
Yay!
we've been trying to do this. To our audience members, of course, support Natalie by buying her book here with us. You can find it by clicking the link I pasted in the chat or on our website. I also did drop a link to Natalie's website in the chat, and I will include a link to that in the email I send out right after this as well. Your support really does help small bookstores like us stay open and bring authors to our community. So on that note, thank you so much again, everyone. We hope to see you back for more events soon. Hope you have a good rest of your night.
Awesome. Thank you.